Welcome to the Rebel Crone and welcome to Thursdays. Once again, you know what time it is. It is time for Maurice and I to just put it all on the table and have a great chat about life and wisdom and our challenges and all the above. And I've got a doozy for us today because I'm going to put it all out on the table and we'll see where it goes. Welcome, Maurice. It's so great to be with you again. Yay.
Yay is right. Yeah. Holy mackerel, what are you going to hit me with?
So, what I want to share today is just it's been a really challenging few weeks for me. Really, really challenging on a personal level. And it kind of came all into point the other day where I just, sometimes we can pull it together. We're in our flow. We feel on top of it. We feel or live in our message. I'm in my truth. And then other times we don't feel that. So not feeling that, I had just a lot of emotion, a lot of things coming up for me. And, because we're the crossover point, right? We're the crossover point of, our past, our future. Here's us in the present. There's the higher self. There's the lower self, there's humanity, all coming to focus in to us as a person right now. We're that crossover point. What I felt like lately is a lot of emotion and a lot of things like coming in. It was really got to be a little overwhelming, but I was also stepping out of, this is my thing behind it, is I was stepping out of my present and I got caught up into fantasizing about the future, looking into and trying to peer into that. And the past was coming up and all these feelings flooding in and just getting off centered. I felt like I was getting buffeted around a lot. So what I did is find out, okay, this is like coming in too fast, too furious, too much going on. So I got to my sacred space and I just said this little, I don't want to use the word prayer after listening to the last interview Jason did. I get it. I want to really clean up my language. But I got to my sacred space and really just said a intention that and this is what I want to talk about here, that I have this flood of feelings coming in, a lot of anger. And I said, I don't want to, if it's not my anger, I don't want to take it on. So whatever's not mine, I send away. I send out of my sacred space. I don't claim it, want to let it go. And you know what? It lifted, Maurice said, lift it like that. So I have a feeling that a lot of what I'd been experiencing emotionally, and this might not be a topic that's a good one for you or not being a man, but sometimes we feel things and they're not ours, especially if we're sensitive, and you are a sensitive man, that a lot can come in, especially with the people we love or people we're connected to. We can start feeling things that aren't ours to feel. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. It absolutely makes sense.
And so I was feeling all this stuff coming in, and I was like, well, what is mine? Like, I'll deal with what's mine, but what's not mine, you can go away now. And I just major shifting happened. I don't know if you can speak to it, a little clarity on that, because I think that that's really powerful, that a lot of times we're feeling things and they're really not our feelings.
There's a lot of ways to go at it. I've heard, I think I'll just respond, not with what I heard other people talk about, but what I feel is from where I'm coming from. First of all, that is exactly what goes on with a lot of people. They take on things that aren't theirs. Then they don't know the difference, so they assume they are theirs. And then in that process, they're in a state of confusion, aren't they? Aren't you? That's kind of a neutral word, confusion. Well, hell, you can be confused about anything. Something you don't know the answer to, you're confused until you know the answer. People are in that state and they don't even realize it. So therefore, they don't address it as such. They just sit there and be buffeted around in not knowing. And they think that's the permanent state. But what you just revealed is that is not the permanent state, even though it appears to many people for a long, long time. That is exactly that. That's what life is, period. Ultimately, confusion. But the thing is, you've got to a point, somehow or other, you have got to the point where you say, wait a minute, I can actually take command or control of that. Call it for what it is and step away from it. It doesn't mean that you've resolved the issues, but it does mean you've taken yourself out of the heat of battle and looked at it from a kind of the position of the observer within the combatant, as it will, as if you will.
Yeah, because I want to be able to observe. I love how you put that, Maurice, because it's about like I'm willing to take on my stuff that's for me to take on so I can clarify my heart and I can become, step more into my position of power in a clearer way. But the stuff that's not mine to take on that I'm just absorbing, then that's not mine to take on.
Yeah,
And
and
that
knowing the difference, I can't tell you how you know the difference, but somehow or other, you've got to a point in your life that you can at least see that there is a difference. And then
well,
once you see it, then you can make a choice, right?
yes, it's so true. And even because I feel like maybe on the big spectrum of thing, how advanced I am, I don't know where it is, but I'm not your average Joe.
Well,
I
you're
have
not a 3-year-old anymore.
no, and as an adult woman, I have focused a life on learning and understanding the mechanism of being me and the mechanism of being a human and what's my spiritual position, how things work. This is I've had a life of pursuing this and the science and the mystery of it. So even being in that place, this stuff still happens. So all of you out there, like, don't put people on any kind of a pedestal. There's every experience I've had with the guru or the leader in the spirituality, and they may be really advanced, but sometimes the more advanced they are, the more challenges they have, and they don't always meet them.
Oh, that's true.
Is that like a big understatement or what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but something, for me, it was just I reached my capacity, and I've got a big capacity now. So it was a lot of energy coming to me, a lot of energy coming to me. And I was taking it on as mine, and it flipped me into confusion and chaos. It felt like I got very chaotic because typically I have a pattern of, the heart mind coherency. I have a pretty good pattern of coherency and being able to look at things. And this was just, the confusion, the chaos. It kind of blew my pattern apart until I was like, whoa, 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 that's enough. It was going to bury me. It was so intense. And like, that's enough. Let's just sit down and get this straight. What is mine to take on? What is not mine? And it just, that act alone cleared out like the burden, like the heavy burden of it. And I got back to, oh, there I am. Okay, now let's look at my stuff. I can handle me and my stuff. I can't handle everybody's stuff.
That's I would like to talk about that. You said it cleared out, and when you said that, the first word came into my head: clarity.
Yeah.
Cleared is a casual word. Clarity has a specific meaning, and that's the difference. That's not the whole thing, but it's part of it. When you see things with clarity, that other stuff is secondary. You don't fall prey to it nearly as much. Prey, not pray, like you mentioned earlier. The words.
Yes. Oh.
And worship, that's another one. I'll mention another name. Because my friend Dawn Hart and your friend Dawn Hart has been making that point for years. Worship and warship, WORSHIP and WARSHIP. They sound the same. So but they have different meanings. Pray, PREY and PRAY. Let's pray. Well,
Well, what Maurice is talking about is when Chief Ironbush did or Jason interviewed him a couple weeks back, and he did a big old download on word magic. Yep. And black magic particularly. And it's
word
our words
magic
of
in particular,
word magic. Yeah. Yeah, and one of the ones was with worship, and he's talking about the inserted paradigm into humanity. That's one of the predator, the preying on others. That we look at everything how it's set up in our culture, how we play games. One team's gonna win and they're gonna pray to Jesus. They're gonna win. The other one's gonna pray, and there's the family praying that, oh, our team's gonna win, but really they're praying on the other one to
Yep.
defeat them so that they can be elevated.
Yep.
So
One
that
for every winner, there's a loser.
Yeah, and it's not just that, but it's the spirit behind it is the preying upon.
Yep.
So I want my child to win and feel good, my child winning, but who cares about your child that now has been defeated and feels bad and all that. So it's just this, it's so insidious.
It
And our
is.
words are indicative of that. So,
Exactly. Yeah, that was the point anyway of
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Clarity.
but so the of Claire, which keep going, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's
That
that word magic, the word
exactly.
magic of worship and praying upon. And so now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really afraid to use certain words or just very cognizant
You
that I
mean
want to
like
be
nice?
able,
Like nice?
like nice.
I haven't used except I just used it, but there's a point there. I don't use that word anymore. When I interact with the clerks in the stores, that's who I basically talk to anymore in my daily life. When I'm outside of the house, obviously, I do have David living here with me for a while. Um, I never use it, and every time, and I notice they don't use it either. I don't think it's consciously, but they always end up saying "Have a great day" or "Have a wonderful day," and I noticed that now. I never used to notice it. Nice was just, well, okay, that's a pleasant equivalent, something like that. But having looked into it now, I say, holy shit, it's that subtle.
Yeah.
It's little things like that we take for granted, but they really do have meaning. But
And we're casting by using the words, then we are casting our agreement
yes,
into that whole paradigm that's around that. And that's the word magic
yes,
is that we are
exactly true.
casting a
Yeah,
spell
there's
by
a ton of
using.
word magic of which
Oh,
you'd have to be a scholar to, you go to a college professor would be teaching a course on it, for instance. There's the whole system is gamed against the individual. It
it
literally
is.
is. And they
It,
what do they twist things. That's the truth. They twist things that they know what it means, we don't, and we do it in our ignorance. And that's not a bad thing to be ignorant. If you don't know something, you're ignorant of it. Doesn't
right.
mean you're necessarily a dum dum. It just means that you haven't been exposed to it in to understand what it is, and they prey upon that. Again, PREY, because they know what they're doing, but we don't.
Well,
That's
they understand
that's
the power of a human being. And the power of a human being is we are creators. We're in the likeness and image of God. So we create. That's what we're designed to do. And it's the whole vehicle everything is designed for creation. So they use our words against us. They use language against us so that we create our own dungeon programming, if we want to use
yeah,
that terminology, which is a perfect way of saying it, keeping us
works.
all in the dungeon as opposed to sovereignty and freedom, which is on the other side of that, which is the reality of who we are. But how do you hoodwink people into a false reality? Get
Right.
them to cast their own spells against them.
Absolutely, they do it too. That's the
Oh,
system. That is the more you learn about that, the more you see the reality that it's true. That is exactly what's going on or has been going on. This, but on the positive about that, there's a lot of people that are seeing through it. Maybe not to the extreme depths of somebody that's been studying it for 20 years, and maybe they just figured it out, or they're allowing it into as a possibility in their life that could be true. And the more they look at that, the more they see examples of it actually being true. And what the level that you and I are discussing it is not a high level, but it's a somewhat perceptive level of seeing that. And the more you see that, the more you recognize, wait a minute, this world isn't exactly as it's presented to us, is it?
it is not. The deception is pretty, you see, comprehensive. It's
Intricate too.
Yeah, exactly. And but that's what I'm doing here, or I'm attempting to do with my channel and the messages coming through. Is my attempt is to bring it back down to simple terms.
Exactly.
It's we're enter
Understandable terms to as many people as is possible. You're not talking to you in a way you are talking to a specialized audience, but you're not trying to prove how smart you are. You're trying to expand the awareness level. That's your basic where you're coming from. You're not coming as a massive teacher, although you have things you know that you would like to share that you think are valuable and worthwhile knowing for other people who haven't seen that yet, and you can make life a little bit easier for them because that's your true nature anyway. That's what you want to do. That's part of your humanity as well. And the more you do that, the more gratified you feel about your life and how you're living.
it's sort of selfish, but it comes down to the beautiful selfishness of the true selfishness of living your life of your true self. Selfishness in our true self, not selfish as far as my ego gratification goes and fulfillment. That's that has no fulfillment around it. There's no fulfillment, and that's why people that have money and all this stuff there does not equal happiness. We all know that, yet are we aware of why and how often do we fall into that trap? Because
Yeah,
it's not out there. It's not an out there job. It's an inside job. So
it is. Well,
selfishly,
that's very true. It is selfish. But
yeah,
and you're right. But the selfishness you're talking about is not the greedy selfishness. It's the generous, kind selfishness. Because
yes,
again, your true nature is to give. Because you have an unlimited basket to give. You're never going to be in lack in that. That's heavy. That's a little heavier, but it's effectively what you're drawing upon is unlimited, not the limited, which is what this society is based upon. It's based upon lack, actually. Uh,
well, and let's go back to that capitalism is based on there's only, the pie's only so big, and I'm going
correct.
to grab more slices and more for my family, for my own, for my own. And heck
Mhm.
with you, you figure it out. If you are smart enough and savvy enough, then you can figure out business, and you can work the whole system, the whole money system, the
Mhm.
false money system we have, and the false system of success. And I'm getting savvy to those rules, and I'm going to master those so that I get more stuff. Well,
Yeah,
you're not going to be happier, and the world's not any better for it. And you're totally stepped outside of the line of true humanity, the truth of who you are, which we're connected to unlimited source,
that's
unlimited for each and every one of us. It's there
that's exactly
for us.
right. But as long as we only view ourselves as the individual walking around here on this earth, we don't have access to that. It's when we open up to the possibility and then the reality that what you just described is the actual reality, your life becomes different. And you see things that you didn't see before for what they are.
Yes, it's
That's
so
growth.
true.
That's growth. That what kind of growth? Well, it's internal growth. So you could say it's spiritual growth too. Spiritual and internal are almost interchangeable. They probably are interchangeable. Um, you're not the ego that you thought you were. That's another thing. You take a strong look at what ego really is. Yes, it defines you as different from I'm different from you. You're different from me. And how do we know that? Well, we know it from our ego. The problem is that's a harsh master or mistress, depending on how you want to say
Well,
that.
it depends how if you've given too much power to your ego, and if you've identified with that,
That,
as
that
opposed
the
to
more
being
that's
it's
all you identify it as. There's old saying: "Live today, for tomorrow we may die." Eat, drink, and be merry is another one with the same ending. For tomorrow we die. That's it, one and done. And there's a lot of people that buy into it, and usually those are the people that are the multi-billionaires.
But there's also something true about it. That's why it works, right, Maurice? Because all we do have is now. We don't know if we're going to be around tomorrow. Tomorrow's irrelevant, actually. And right now, as I did a little short video quite a ways back called Eat, Drink, and Be Merry, in its highest self, is that to really enjoy the passions and the preferences and the design of who you are by feeding yourself, your true self. Eat, drink, and be merry to your true self, not an indulgent thing of the ego. But there's that point that's the real, that's the you that's appropriate. But if you put your ego in that center thing, then that's insatiable, and others suffer from you eating, drinking, and being merry. It's at the expense of you preyed upon other people, right? It's not, yeah, and it's not preying upon.
It's the mundane world. It's the surface level of living. It's also described as the lowest vibration. That you've used that kind of description along the way in other in other instances, but it's another form of a very low vibratory level. And there are more than just the low level, although society would preach that that's the only level.
Yes, that's why. Okay, so I want you. I have this little necklace I've got on today. It's not a cross; it's a Zia sign, and that's the symbol of New Mexico. Is the little Zia, and it's also very Native American based. As they look at the cross, a balanced cross. You know, not the crucifixion type cross, which is like a bastardization of the true cross, which is a symbol that goes. That's the transcendent symbol. You know, it's been used since forever. Everything we look back, there's always a cross. But that's a balance sign. It's the balance sign of a crossover point, where in the center you have the human, the beautiful human being. And there's the vertical component, the spiritual component, right? Bringing from the invisible, and then you got the horizontal. So there's something beautiful about a true cross, a balanced cross, because it's the balance between all those things. It's not just the vertical. There's not just, I mean, horizontal with no vertical. What do you have? You have ego. You know, have this unfortunate, you know, I feel for people living in that, because a lot of people live in that world. It's what they see is what they believe. That's what's true. If I see it, it's true. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of our sciences are built on what we see and how we can test it and all that, with devoid of the spiritual component, which is the power component, which is the component that brings all this into focus.
Good point. Good point. That is the PowerPoint too, by the way.
Yeah.
It is. And once you recognize that, feel it, you say, wait a minute, the more I do this, the more it shows itself to be true. It literally does. And
test this stuff out. I mean, you're saying is test it out. And we've talked about this before, you and I, about if you hear something, and you've done this throughout your life, you hear something, it's like a good idea. Oh, I like what Maurice and Elisa are saying. I like what whoever's saying. Well, test it out. You know, test it out to be true. Find out the truth of it for yourself.
Bingo. Yep.
You know, that's the key right there, is own it. Get clarity on it, own it.
Own your own game. Another phrase I've heard over and over and over again. Literally true. The more you own your own game, the more content you are internally. I will say that from experience. Try it. You will like it. I will go that far as to say that. The more you do that, the better off you'll be. And you won't become some kind of dictatorial monster like the ego would have somebody do when they are preying upon the other or trying to win the game at the expense of any other and all others. That's, again, very low level appreciation of what empowering yourself really is. Money and power, as exercised in the popular world, is a perversion of what true power is. It really is a perversion. But people don't know any better, because they haven't been taught otherwise. They have to find that shit out for themselves. They have to find it out for themselves. And the only way you find it out for yourself is to try it. And allow the possibility it could be true. And that, and once you step down that road, you're already on the road less traveled, to quote Robert Frost.
Yeah. And it takes a humbleness, right, Maurice? Like
Yes.
I was taking all this stuff on the last few weeks. I'm taking all this stuff on, trying to sort through. And then pretty soon I just got to a humble place and literally I get down on my knees, get in a humble place. Actually, I don't even want to use that. I just sat my butt down and
There
I
you
got
go.
humble and it was just all right. I'm letting go of what I don't need to do because
Yeah,
there's stuff
I
that
don't
I'm
get on
trying
my
to
knees ever again. And yet I was
don't.
raised in a Catholic church. And
But
for
I
the
said that. But I said
oh,
that. Let's get rid of that. It's not getting on your knees. You're not a lonely worm of a flawed person in original
yeah.
sin. No. But we can also get that doesn't mean you don't need to get humble. And however that looks, go for a walk, sit in your special place, get centered, whatever it takes for you to get back in that place of being in that center point of your life, the
Mhm.
point of clarity. We're talking about confusion and chaos, and the world is confused and the world is full of chaos, and it's meant to disrupt us, right?
Yeah.
To pull us here, there, pull us in the past, pull us in the future, pull us into the lies of this. And oh my God, I need some interceding because I want to go into the spiritual realm, but God, I couldn't do it myself. I need
You
help.
know, could I say something about that word humble?
Yeah.
Humble me. The popular, I would say, understanding of that word is you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as important as you think you are. In other words, it's putting you down in a way. It's diminishing you as an individual or as a person, as what we consider ourselves to be. But what it really is, and in the context that you're using the word is, you're acknowledging the other people are not greater than or lesser than. We're equal. We actually are in our perfected form. We are all equal, one to the other. And in recognizing that, you look at each other differently than you would as a competitor, trying to rise above or at the expense of the other. You
Right.
recognize their beauty and in recognizing their beauty, you acknowledge that you possess it just as well. So
Yeah.
humble in that sense, you're taking away the power of the I'm important or the ego, the shallow ego that is, and you're putting you're focusing in on a higher aspect of yourself, and in just in doing that, you're allowing that higher aspect to flow through you as you. And it
Yes.
just what does it do? It just gets more and more and more and more. And no, I
Mhm.
still my feet still touch the ground. I don't ever expect to be, walking around at 6 inches off the ground. It's not that at all. That's shallow kind of stuff. But the world can become beautiful in a heartbeat if you let it. It can.
It
And I
is
know there's
it
more shit out
exists
there.
because it already exists there. It already is. But are you stepping into the place that you can receive it, that you can perceive it?
Yes,
You
both.
can perceive it because it's both receiving and perceiving it. It's so important. And
And then
I like
sharing.
how you put it with humbleness, and humbleness is in context with others and even just within yourself and your own ego. If you're trying to do too much, you cast yourself up or cast yourself down. You're not either. You're not any of those things. You're
No,
not in your grandiose thing and you're not in your lowly. You're you. And it's a good thing. It's a great thing.
it is. It literally
And
is. Yep. And when you do that, things they flow better. They just flow better. And when like you were referring to, your week or several days at the minimum have been rather chaotic for you.
mhm,
In a way, when you were telling or saying that, I was thinking she's just being tested, see where she's at.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think so too. It's and even we can even take like because being tested seems like there's somebody doing something to me where I feel like it's just the natural how things are. Like as we rise up, let's put it this way, as we rise up, and I hate to say up and down, it's not better than or less than, but just as our vibration increases, what increases, the game increases and the stakes increase
hmm
and the challenges will increase. So it's nothing there's not like the little devils challenge you like that, but the challenges increase because you're vibrating higher. So everything is more intensified. Let's put it that way. It's more
yeah,
intensified in a way. And we have to, it's building muscles. I'm not there. There's gonna be more and more challenges as we go. Great challenges. That's cool. Bring it on. It's developing the muscles. All right. When I'm feeling like this intensely off, all right, that's it's still all the principles are true I used years ago. All the things I know are true is to get quiet, get humble, let go of what's not mine, ask for help with invisible help with my higher self. Be clear who you want help from. I want help from my higher self and the me that knows it's focusing me. All right, I'm here. I'm humble. I'm open. Help me. Give me some vision. Give me some wisdom. And it comes in. It's there. Your higher self's always there for you because it's always there for you. You're connected. You can't not be connected to it. You're not connected. I mean, even in death, you're not. You're just go back to it. There's no
Apparently,
ever any disconnect between us and our higher self. But we have
not
free
really.
will. We have free will, so we have to ask for it. Higher self absolutely honors the free will zone around us. We want help. We want more connection with our higher self. Invite our higher self into the inner sanctum of who we are.
Well,
Invite it.
there's a way of another way of expressing it. Everything starts with an intent. You have to intend it. That's what you're saying when you say you asked for it. You have to intend to put it in common language. You have to intend to experience life in a more fluent manner than you are doing now. And the way to do that is to intend for that to be. Now you don't there's not there, you don't have a book in your library that tells you personally how to do that in your life. But just with the intent, that sets into motion a set of events in this world, this human world that we're walking around in, that make it possible for that to be achieved. But we have to be aware of it and looking for it, as opposed to unaware and oblivious to it.
Well, and in the oblivion, we feel victimized, don't we?
Yes, we
That's the
do.
whole area we feel stuff happens to us. I'm just living along the horizontal line.
I'm a
Shit
fucking
happens.
victim. I'm always a victim.
Yeah, I'm just bobbing around in the tumultuous seas of life, and I have no power about what the world is or how it looks or how it's treating me. And that's a sad place to be. That's a scary ass place to be in, quite
Mhm.
frankly. That's not good. And it's
Well,
not true.
that's what all the weather forecasters are looking for. Something that's going to scare people. They got another hurricane that they're trying to sell. I think it starts with an N, Nadine or some damn thing or other. They
Ah,
make a living off of that stuff, though. They make money off of that stuff. The news media, what do they do? What do they? They don't talk about the kind of things you and I are talking about. They talk about all the horrors that they can find in the world.
and you know why? This is not a tangent. This goes back to what we were talking about.
Good.
Is that when you get enough people, if keep in mind that we are mini creator gods in the making. And if you get enough people to believe a certain reality, we will, as human beings, create that reality for ourselves. And this is the word magic. This is weaving the spell. And media is weaving a specific spell on people, and it's called fear. So if you tell enough people that there is through media, through Hollywood, whatever it is, and you implant this in enough minds of people, and they're afraid of the big storms. Think of all those movies we had for years and years where it was like all the tornadoes hit the world and is
Yeah.
Armageddon and mass destruction is the end of everything, or the tidal waves, or the comet coming in. And it's that we've been indoctrinated with all this stuff. So now it's in our subconscious, that fear. So you start talking about the weather things. You look at this last couple hurricanes that came through, how horrible, devastating. It's playing into a belief system.
Yes.
And if you then say, if this next one's coming, enough people are going to focus on it and get afraid of it and how bad it's going to be, then it's going to be bad because enough people agree that that's what it is. It'll be so. Let's stop agreeing on that stuff. Let's stop agreeing on what we're being fed to be afraid of. And we can all start agreeing on something else, that something else will happen. but that's where the powers that be know this truth. They know the power of a human being, and they know the power of the mass of people together agreeing on something. And they use that, they use our creative powers against us.
Exactly true. And they do that with great wisdom and intelligence. They've been studying
Yeah.
how humanity functions as a group. They know how that works at this level.
For thousands and thousands of years. We're talking not ordinary beings. We're talking some that have a real mastery over time because they have figured out how to live a long time in this realm, cut off from the higher realms.
Correct.
And they're feeding off this realm and they're
Well,
manipulating this
if
realm.
all there is this realm, then they are the kings because they
Yeah.
know more about it than the masters of it. The thing is that it's dawning on a bunch of people that there may be more than this. And that's when you and I are talking about our higher selves, for instance, that's outside of this realm. It's in this realm, but it's not contained solely within this realm, and which is these controllers that we keep talking about, the masters, the of old and present, their underlings, their progeny, whatever the hell they are. They only control this realm. They don't, they can't be human. They can be who they are, smarter than us, with more technology than us, apparently, and pretty well, proven through, historical writings. They talk about it across the world in different languages, that is what happened. Now, relative to quote them, but they don't have access to what we have access to, which is connection to that outside of this realm. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about allowing the connection to it to be made consciously aware within us and flow with it, and then allow that flow to come from outside into this realm. And that's when you say, I'm in the flow. That's what I mean by that.
And they can't stop the natural flow. They have no jurisdiction over that. They have no right over that unless we give them the right. They only have power over this realm is because they've got us hoodwinked, and through our words and our actions and our beliefs, we keep turning the power back over to them. We keep reinforcing it. We reinforce the lie. Where if the truth as the truth is coming in, because it is coming in, the game's up, the game's over.
I know that. I absolutely.
The truth, the bottom line truth of it all is that we are creator beings. We have the power is within us. We are connected. Maybe we have the potential to be. You may not be savvy to it right now, but the potential as a human being is you can step into that flow that nothing can take away from you. And that's the creator God flow.
And if you don't believe it, try it. Like I said before, try it. You'll like it because you can prove it to yourself in your own life.
I like it. Try it. You'll like, I got to put that on our thumbnail this time because you said that many times when we talk, and I love it. It's such an easy, gracious way. Try it. You might just like it. You never know. Take control of your life. Step into your own autonomy. Yeah, you might like it.
And you just used another word, grace. Gracious, you said. That's what, and you do that, you become gracious.
Yeah.
It's not something I got to do this to get that. It is just you showing yourself for who you are. You are grace in action. You can be, and you are actually, if you allow it to happen. And it's not manners. Manners are part of it, but that's not it. That's the external manifestation of a graceful person. They just naturally have that. That is who they are. It's the perversion is that we think we need to learn it to, make it an external manifestation, but it's not. It's an internal thing that shows itself as itself, because that is who you really are. When I refer to the higher self, that is who it is. It's grace. It's kindness. It's love. This is a dense realm. We know that.
Yeah.
Amongst all of us, we know it's a dense realm. Well, there's lighter realms, apparently, We've certainly heard that by many, many people. And I can't prove it one way or the other, but I tend to think they're onto something. I don't sit here and say, well, it's true or not, but when internally I say it could be true, it might be true, and if it is true, what does that mean to me?
Yeah.
And then again, the only I reflect what I feel is true, and that's for some weird reason that's important to me. I don't have to know all of the in 1948 something happened and it caused this to happen, still 60 or 70 or God knows how many years ago that was. It's 70 something, Jesus. Anyway, that goes back to the now. There is only the now, actually. And 1948 might as well have been 548. It's just far in the past. It doesn't exist anymore, except as a limited partial memory. When you refer to it, you say, well, I'll go to a book that was written contemporarily. Well, that's closer to what they say it was. But if you weren't even around in 48, that you just taken the word of somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even if you were, the memory was, in my case, I was only 6 years old, for crying out loud. What did I know at 6 compared to what do I know now? But I can tell you one thing, I was a hell of a lot more innocent back then than I am now, and trusting. And in that process, I got taken advantage of too. I got sold a lot of goods that I have since figured out they are at best misunderstandings, if you will.
We're all sold a bill of goods from the very beginning because our parents were sold it, their parents were sold it, on down to a certain point when some of the big changes happened with humanity and the new narrative was inserted. And that new narrative has been fed and ingrained over time. We are taught or just not anything like your beliefs, the whole what it means to be a person, that this is cold, this is hot, this is good, this is bad, this is that. And then our educational system is just layer after layer is put upon us, as opposed to when we come into the world. Now I don't believe every child coming in is an innocent. They're not. They're an eternal being that has got a lot of history, and they're here to learn certain things. They come with a whole package of stuff. But the overlay, we come in agreeing to this system. We're going to incarnate, and I incarnate as a spirit knows what's going on here. We agree to come into this system, as flawed and controlled as it is. We're going to come into this system and play the game the way it is. And so we agree on that. And then the overlay happens, right? And then it's just all the stuff of the world, all the rules and regulations. That's why I feel like it's all the rules and regulations. This is how you play the game. And it all builds on top of us. And I feel like our job is to start peeling that away to find the truth again. And I know this to be true, Maurice, because I had this experience in an out-of-body experience. This literally of vibrating through the layers of this world, taking off, like it felt like cloaks of just burden of who I am, of this dirty, old, heavy cloaks, and taking it off and vibrating more and more. And anyways, there's a whole story I'll share with you sometime about it. And then getting to the place where I was free and clear all that vibrationally. So it is true, and it came to me in different symbols, and it was very interesting. It was very profound, and it showed me that
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard similar stories from other people. I haven't experienced that ever once. However, I still sit here able to talk with you about that. So I somehow or other figured it out myself, but I can't point to any specific thing like that at all in my life. And but yet I'm still here. So I walked maybe a unique path. Well, it was, but
we all do a unique path, and we have messages coming to us in different ways for different reasons.
correct.
And the thing is to just whatever our message is, however our visions, however our feelings and our knowings and our connection, we're all beautifully and uniquely designed for it. And there's not a right or wrong way with it. Just because somebody can channel, just because somebody, this or that or whatever skill, clairvoyant, clair this, that, it's just stuff. It's just different tools and different messages coming through.
Mhm.
Doesn't make them better or worse. It's it's helpful to that person, so that happened to that person.
Right.
Other people doesn't. And there's areas, so I've had experiences where I know like things are true. I know what it's like to go back to the source and rest in the bosom, in the womb of source, a mother source, what that feels like. I've rested there and consciously been aware of it. But is there other things I've been conscious about? No. Lots of other stuff I'm not conscious about that I've had to like kind of extrapolate. All right, when I do this, that happens and that doesn't feel so good. And then if I do that, oh, now I'm in alignment and I'm still figuring this all out. Like we all are, to whatever degree, we're capable of and we're willing to, and we've intended to. I just had a
From what point do we intend? I asked that question of you. I
at
have.
what
And where is that intent coming from?
yeah, that's a choke me up there. That's a really good question, is where does that come? And I think, yeah, I'm just going to talk it through, thinking it through while I'm talking, because I'm a woman. That's what we do.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, it's a really good. I haven't thought about it. Whereas the intent for me comes from the spark of who you are. That spark that's connected. The spark of awareness. Like you can't. People intend all kinds of things. So let's just first define intent. People intend all the different things. I'm going to be the richest person ever. I'm going to have the pretty girl and the big in the fast car and the thing. I intend this, and I'm going to set about going to do it. And the clearer we are, the more passionately we want that intention, the more fixed we're on it, we can make it happen, right? So at some point in time, though, and it differs for everybody, some people never get there, where we experience our intentions at a lower level, and we wake up to like there's something more than that didn't bring me happiness, that didn't bring me fulfillment. I thought dating that person, marrying that person, getting this, having that job, that was going to be it. And somebody, you're like, no, it's not it. And this is kind of, well, what is it? And then for the blessed ones that figure that what's it is a quality of their heart, what I'm looking for is fulfillment. Heart fulfillment is for joy and peace and these things that aren't measured out there. And then our intending becomes whole different, right?
Sure.
Then our intending we start to line it up with our higher self and with the truth of who we are. And I think that maybe some people are blessed with getting that earlier. Some people never get it. It's not a race between people. It's just your own journey. So I think like that, like the pure intent, the intent that lines up, which I think that's what you meant by intention, is like the intention that lines up with making manifest the truth of who I am, you being me, and
Correct.
you be you. I want to intend that. How can I make that happen? What do I have to do? And that just comes, I don't know, I feel like I was blessed and cursed with that very early on in my life. Felt like a curse for a long time because I didn't understand it. I didn't have like the access to resources that are available now. And the wisdom was not there years ago, as you know, because you're even older, that wasn't out there. What's available now has not been available.
Correct.
It's a whole other thing when you like felt like a different calling, and to find it was tricky years ago. Now is the good news, and the bad news is so much is available, is like sifting through that stuff. And that's why I did the video on channeling, is to help people like sift through. Just because it comes from the invisible doesn't mean that it's a good thing for you.
Absolutely. Without even having seen that, which I will look at today, by the way, because it was recommended to me today, again by Tony. And and it's a short one relatively. It's not as long as what you and I do together. So
The longest stuff is when you and I get talking.
yeah,
But so that's the answer to the question. I think like the intent, like pure intent, is when that spark is ignited in a person, or somebody becomes conscious of the spark of who they are, and the intention is that I want that to grow and connect in to my higher self.
That is,
That is intent.
that's when the conscious human 3D experience connection is made. Now, how that comes to a person is, like you said, it's unique to the individual. Some it comes way early in life, others it takes a long time, like me. But I always had it, I just didn't know it as such. Therefore, I didn't know I had it. But at some point, I realized, hey, wait a minute, that's what this is, and I like it.
Yeah.
And then I said, I want more of that. That's more genuine, if you will, than all of the trickery that I learned how to play, from the system, which I never did like to play, but I guess I found I probably did some of it. I had to have. I survived the damn thing.
Well, we're just it's we're born into that. We've been over, like we're saying, we're overlaid with the rules of the game, and there's a part of us that want to play it, and we want to excel because we want to excel. We want to be the best we can be. It's just misplaced.
Correct. Yeah. Well,
And
it's
I
like
played that game. I still every day there's a choice. What game do you want to play into?
that's very
And
true. Yeah. And the more fastidious you are about it, the more clear it becomes to you in a much quicker way. And there's that clarity word again, a clear clarity, same thing.
you
And
know, and
the more you do that, the more you are that. And there's not choice anymore. It's because that's who you are, and you're allowing it to flow through you as you.
exactly. At some point, you're just like, I just don't even have a choice on this. I am so wired that I'm so miserable if I'm not aligning myself. I'm so that I don't, the old game that's hell on earth.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
literally.
buying into the old game. And it's like, I just physically, I cannot viscerally do it anymore. So the choice kind of is, yeah.
And backing up to what I started with was you were commenting on how chaotic your last week was, roughly.
Mhm.
In a way, it's kind of like a weightlifter in with weights. Where you start out, 50 pounds things feels pretty heavy. Well, you can just keep lifting 50 pounds all of your life if you want. But if you want to improve, get better, then you have to put extra weights on there. Well, initially, it's a struggle, especially if you double it. You might not even be able to lift it, but you tried. Point being, growth requires tests it just seems to work that way. But you find that as you grow, as you mature, as you get more expanded consciousness, if you will. That's another word that has been used off and on through the last 25 years for sure. You're able to deal with things a heck of a lot quicker. And just like you said, it was a week. You were in chaos, but you said, this is wrong. I got to do something about it. I don't know what. And you had to sit down and just communicate with your inner self for a bit.
Yeah, and it's kind of was embarrassing to say. I was like, for that, it took me like a whole week. But I tell you, I was in some pretty complex, and just I'm unwinding some very deep things for myself,
Yeah.
very deep patterns. And these patterns, like, what you're talking about, Maurice, I kept thinking about too, like the spiral, the spiral of life that's spiraling upward, either it's syntropy or it's entropy going down. But we're talking about the spiral going up, and lifting the weights it takes tenacity and discipline over time to keep meeting these things. So you're going to keep meeting the stuff, like the things that came up for me the last few weeks. This isn't like new stuff. I mean, I feel like we come into this world where into our specific lifetime, and there's certain challenges that we're here to meet. And we're going to be meeting them on this spiral of this particular life. And you're going to keep going around. And these are the certain things that Elise is here to meet. There's certain things that Maurice is here to meet. There's certain things you came here to meet. Your issues aren't my issues. My issues aren't your issues. We may have some overlap and similar ones because there's only so many of them, but mine are still mine. And as I go around, each time I go to meet them, I've got bigger muscles. And so I can handle them at a different level, but they're a bigger challenge. It's a heavier weight, and they keep going up and up and up. And you think of the true master, I'm talking about a true master that's sitting at the pinnacle of their experience, the pinnacle of their lifetime in being, the ones that have master stuff. They can float if they want. They can do, the eat or not eat. It's just they're however you want to look at it, and they're in a place of mastery. They've mastered themselves, right? They've come through, they've lifted a lot of heavy weights, probably over many lifetimes.
It could very well be.
Yeah, I don't know, but there's just a lot that goes into a life like that, and it's not like it was an easy life. That mastery comes with to step out of the paradigm, step out of the control pattern as it is, takes work. It just does. Now, some things can be over with like that. Like I've had certain patterns and challenges where, boom, they were just lifted, gone. I intended them, they're gone. And there's other ones, man, those little suckers keep coming around. But every time they come around, I'm stronger, but they're bigger. And but I keep going upwards. And so I know from meeting this challenging period of time I've been in that I'll come out on the other side. Because I know it to true that it'll change. I never felt like this is it forever. That I'm really down and out about it. But I'm going to come through on the other side. I'll come out even higher up on the ladder of me, on the spiral of me. But it wasn't necessarily fun.
No, no. Well, lifting weights ain't that fun either, but it's a challenge.
I like lifting weights. I really do like. I loved weight training. That's where my love of it started. And I felt like the inner strength that it created for me as a woman by just surely developing muscles on a body, that I had some strength, that I understood like there's something about a man and being strong in your body and capable, because we do have a physical vessel, and we got to take care of our physical vessels. And if we have it be physically strong, there's like, it's just I don't know. I feel like it just really helps. It helps with your intention and you're feeling good about yourself. Because you got, like, if you're feeling sick, and I've been in those places, I've had a lot of physical challenges. And when you're not feeling good or you're in pain, it's challenging having higher thoughts, right, Maurice? You've been through this yourself and loved ones.
Sure. I will offer that clarity comes, the kind of clarity that you're talking about, the ability to rise above the current events that are showing themselves to you in the moment. You can get to clarity quicker the more you engage in what we're talking about, which is establishing that conscious connection with what? Your higher self, your better self. It's there. When you do, the more it grows, it gets stronger. It's as if the valve opens up more. And in that process, you're not lost in confusion nearly as long as you used to be. And it gets better and better. Does that mean that confusion disappears from your life? No, it doesn't. The opportunity to prove and to manifest who you are at a higher level just becomes through that is the way you show it. And I will say that you get to that response point a lot quicker now than you ever did before. And the next challenge you're going to have, difficult set of circumstances that would have buried you 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, you not only rise through it quicker, you become graceful in it, and it almost becomes immediate. I'm not saying I am not at that point or anything, but I do know that it's possible. And those people we talk about as being masters, they are at that point or damn close to it. And that is a possibility. It can happen. But the only way it can happen is to allow it to happen. And the first thing you got to do, you got to take responsibility for your own actions. You just do. And then just in that initial thing, that's such a big thing. And part of that is with women in particular, but men as well. Boundaries. You've got to have your boundaries, and they have to be important to you. And just the more you develop that, the more you get to know who you are within your frame of reference. And you notice that there's There's people that don't challenge them, that respect them. Those become your acquaintances and your friends. The ones that walk over them and ignore them and try to take advantage of you, you also recognize, and you stay at a distance from them. You still may be in contact with them. Could be workmates. It could be fucking family members. It could be, but you can deal with them, but you deal with them at a surface level only, because that's all they're dealing with you at is a surface level, and they don't appreciate anything deeper, so you don't waste your time with them, and you get to know that as a matter of course, and that's your ability to see things. You become you become clear about things. You're not confused about it. You see, if somebody's sitting there taking advantage of you, you see it for what it is, as opposed to becoming victimized by it.
And at some point, it becomes second nature.
It
Like
is.
you're saying, I would think, Maurice, there's a lot of things that you have mastered in your life. You just don't realize it or are conscious of right now because it's just second nature to you now. It wasn't second nature to you way back when, but you did the work and now you just are it. And there's still stuff that we're clarifying, we're building muscles around, but there are
Absolutely.
things that we do master in a way that we get to a point where we're just it. You get
Yep.
to a point where you're not going to even like have to, you're not going to be even attracting those type of people, whatever that type of person is. You don't even attract those anymore in your life because you've totally gone and you've gotten that one. I don't need that lesson anymore.
The victimizers, if you will. That's a good one word description of them. The ones that prey on other people, they see that in you, and you're not easy prey. So
Right.
they don't waste their time on it. They're looking for easy victims, and they got
You're,
a
yeah,
whole bunch of them out there. So why bother with a challenge if they can do it easy? They're lazy.
you're right. They're not going to play the game with you. They're playing a certain game, and that game is vibrational uh uh
Yeah.
compatibility. You know,
Yes,
you're not even in they don't even you don't even come up on their screen anymore because you're not on their screen.
that's
You're on
all.
another vibration. So
That's
they're
all.
not even going to pay attention to you. Like, how does a person pick out a victim in a crowd? You know, they pick out the victim because it's vibrational. That's the person I can victimize. I'm not going to pay attention to that person because I can't. You know, they're just going to come
Yep.
together. You know, I've got the lesson you need to learn. I
Good
give it to
way
you.
to look at that too. They don't even see you. There comes a point when they don't even see you.
Yeah,
So you'll
yeah,
be proud to, they might notice you as a background, and but nothing to even focus upon. They don't even try.
yeah.
That I've experienced that, for crying out loud.
Yeah, something just flashed to me that you just sort of said. You said you become a background player. You know, there's a whole thing out now, but with it is NPCs,
Yes, yeah. NPC
non-player characters.
character.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if that whole thing is like to every level that you change, you vibrate to, the other levels become almost, and is it NPC? Is that the
Yes, yeah.
acronym? That they become like NPCs to you, but within their own realm, they're not non-essential players. In
That's a
their
good,
own realm, is that they're very essential, and did you get that?
I
It just
do,
kind of
man.
hit me.
Good
This
insight too.
whole
Yeah,
judgment.
but you become an NPC to them, whether they define it that way or not. You don't even show up on their radar screen as anything important.
You're just the person that served them the coffee. You're just the lady that crossed the street or the lady that said thank you and held the door open. You're just whatever. You're the person walking down the street. You're not essential in their play,
Right.
right? We're
Yes.
all play. We're all this is my play. And I'm the star of my play. You're the star of your play, Maurice. And are you essential character to the star of my play? Only if you're playing into me and the things I need to learn and where I'm vibrating, then those players become essential.
Yep.
So when you step out of that, they're not essential anymore. That's a different way of looking at it. I like that. It always has bothered me because people get really, there's a lot of judginess about, well, they're not essential players because they're just devoid of this and they're just there and there's nothing, there's no spirit in them and they're just automatons walking around. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. but I'm not going to take that chance and even dive into that paradigm, carry that around, because who am I to judge? Somebody's essentialness and the validity. Is their soul in there? Is it just asleep? Is there not one? Is there, I mean, that's really playing God on things. But I kind of like that idea, is like, it's only who shows up in my life is going to be the essential players. Everybody else is not essential to me because it's my show.
That's true. Man, I can go down. I don't even know if I can put words to it yet, but that's a hell of a good line of thinking. I may even spend some time with that today. Uh,
Yeah, that just came like when you were talking, it was just like a little window open. And I was like, and you almost didn't say, you said, "Oh, it's non-essential." I'm like, oh my God, that could be, I like that. I think that I'm going to do something with that. I got to meditate on that more too, because that to me is like I don't know, it just feels better, that whole dealing with that whole area. And it's there's just too many pitfalls in the other ones, too
I
many
agree.
pitfalls of being judging and playing God and, you know,
Yeah,
judging other people.
it's interesting too, and I guarantee you, you do it. You when you interact with the public in general, whether dinner, out shopping, driving, whatever, you treat people as if they're worthy. You don't treat them as just an object. You always you're looking for the good in people, and you offer the good in you to them. If they refuse it or slap it down, then you respond.
Yeah,
Initially, you come at it with a good heart, because that's you flowing as you. They're on a different level, but in that, you're basically saying exactly what you said. They're not soulless. They're just at a different vibratory level.
and it's not essential to my being.
Correct. In your world. And the thing is, the people that do become important to you are similarly constructed or constructed. They're at a similar level of understanding, beingness, and that's why you vibrate with each other so well. I know some
Right.
friends, you know some of my friends, and we have mutual
Yeah.
friends. And it's a certain kind of people that we actually interact with, at a more than surface level.
Right.
But the people we interact with at a surface level, we don't denigrate them. We don't. At least I don't. I don't go around trying to judge people. I treat them as if
Oh,
they're just as good as I am, and
yeah.
I don't even worry about what they know and I don't know. Unless I need to know, then I'll ask them.
Yeah, it's just like so many things are coming off of this for me, Maurice, and I'm writing some notes here so I don't forget it. But I was just thinking, if we're looking at the different vibratory levels,
You know,
and so
that is
I'm at, we're vibrating right now. You and I are vibing together. We get along so great because we have a certain vibe.
right.
We really play into each other and we get each other and all of that. So we're essential to each other in our lives because that work. But when we're looking at another level, when we interface to that, so what happens when we treat somebody not essential to us in our play, but we treat them with love and kindness? It's like we impregnate that lower level. We seed it with something good, with a higher vibration. So the people down there, oh, that felt good. And that helps them to vibrate up because we just shared a higher vibration with them, and it gives them the opportunity then to just like, oh, yes, does it take root? If you give them a little seed, put a little water in there, and if it's ready to take root, then something grows out of it, and then they can come up to another level and play, and then we go to another level. We can raise the whole thing up by kindness and goodness. Isn't just like the right thing to do. I think there's something really practical with vibrationally that's happening here, is that we are helping to seed another level with
Agreed.
a higher level, seed it with that higher level. Come on, there's more. Come on up and I'll show you. I will.
And it isn't like you're not doing it to get a higher score either. You're just doing it because that's the level you're at, because you're in the flow of your higher self, which said earlier is beauty, truth, love, all of the virtues are there to be had. And as you ascend, if you will, to the next level or the level beyond that, or however many quote levels there are, that becomes more and more you, that it is manifest here on this earth. And in that process, you're doing exactly what you're saying. You're just by being you, you don't have to focus on it, you just do it. You are it.
Yeah.
And
you just do what you do because that's who you are.
yeah,
Right.
you're letting your true self show.
We got to keep in mind with all this too, Maurice, that we are one. We're all from one source and we are all one. And you talk to any higher level being, any higher level teachings, they all talk about, for them, a real shifting point was the dawning of the oneness of everybody. As I do unto you, I do unto myself. So there is all that. And we can only rise as high as the lowest of us, because we are all one together. So the whole thing of just like seeding other levels and sharing our love and like spreading that and allowing that to spread from us, that is the thing to do, because we are all one and we want everything to raise up. We want this whole bloody creation, this bloody beautiful creation, to break free of the control patterns and rise up and be who we're meant to be, all of us. People have a choice. Some may be off on other timelines and other things. There's a lot of speculations on how that's all going to work.
Yeah.
But we do something negative to somebody else, we do it to us.
We do. But
can't get around that.
But the one thing about it you notice in your own life is when you do that, you beat yourself up over it. You know immediately that you did wrong, and you don't really like doing it, even though you did it. You feel bad about yourself. You actually feel guilty that you failed.
You feel horrible.
Yeah. And if there's some way you can detune that, you try. You
yes.
try to fix it. You don't just ignore it and walk away and say fuck them. You don't. It bothers you too much. Because that's a failure on your part.
You make amends. I love like the power of apologizing, of forgiving yourself and then apologizing for something. That's power there, a legit thing. It's not being, it's just like, I'm sorry. That wasn't who I want to be. That isn't, that's my fault. I found one of the powerful things, Maurice, is like if I'm talking with somebody close to me or even sometimes within a group, if I say something and I feel like it missed the mark, or was hurtful or something, I just ask if I can say it again. Just go, you know what? That didn't come out right. Can I say that again? And I've never had anybody say, no, you can't. They're like, sure, say it again. And then I say it, this is what I really meant. And I say like with my heart in the right way, and it makes it reset the whole thing. You can reset the whole thing. If you say something and it's hurtful, it didn't come out the way you want it, just say it again. Sorry, that's not really what I intended. Let me try again. That's powerful to be able to do that. And people love that.
That's fucking taking control of your own game again.
Yeah.
Literally. That is so important. And it's so rewarding. That's the thing of it. It's so rewarding to yourself, and nobody grants it to you. You just feel it.
Yeah.
You're doing right. You're in harmony with the flow, if you will.
Yeah. Oh God, that just brings up so many things here. And I don't know, I don't want to go on another tangent here, but at some point we'll have to talk about the thing of self-governance versus governance from within versus governance imposed from the outside, which is what we have, right? In our whole judicial system is governance from the outside, because we've never raised people, we're so far out of touch from governance from within, which ultimately I think in a society that people learn how to make govern within themselves, and you don't need a judicial system.
No, you don't. No, but that's at a level that a lot of people, the mainstream, let's put it this way. The mainstream level is the control mechanism in play. and we all of us recognize that there's fallacies and deficiencies in that one way or another. And the more you learn about it, the more you want to distance yourself from it. That hence the phrase, be in the world, but not of the world.
Yeah.
You realize that the world is here as it is with all of the levels of awarenesses floating around, all in the same relative reality. This construct, if you will, that's another word that is used sometimes to describe what we find ourselves living within as a human being. But there's all kinds of ways of experiencing it, as we're talking about. Well, the mainstream level is the surface level. That's the control level. That's the lowest vibratory level. But we're not there anymore, but we're still walking in it. We realize that if we go through a red light, there's going to be an enforcer of the lowest level right there, with his light, to give you a damn ticket or something like that. I don't see cops much anymore, but I know they're there, and that's what they're there for. If you violate one of their records, their codes, then they're subject to their penalties. That's being in the world.
Right.
But being not of the world, you recognize it for what it is. And if you got to pay a fine, you fucking pay the fine and you go on from it. You don't sit there.
At some point, yeah, you don't rail against it. You don't it's just like a non-issue. It's like, part of you just plays that game, not because you're of that game, but it's just like no longer relevant. So it's kind of not,
it's not important. It's just another damn opportunity for you to rise above it if you allow yourself to do it, or you can become victimized by it and stuck in it, which is
exactly,
and what the mainstream wants you to do. They always want you to become one of them. But here's another one: you can be one of them, but they can't be one of you.
Oh, I like that's a good one, Maurice. That's right.
You know who told? I think I mentioned this to you once before, but I'll repeat it. The one that told me that was my daughter when she was about 7 or 8 years old, and she was talking to me, and I was in a work environment where I didn't fucking belong, but I was there, and I made it, and all that kind of good stuff for 23 years. But the point is, I was kind of complaining about things as they were transpiring, and she looked at me and she said those very words. She said, "Daddy," she said, "you can be one of them." He said, and she said, "but they can never be one of you."
Wow, out of the mouth of a babe, right?
Yeah,
That's called talking truth to power, talking truth to daddy.
and I recognized it immediately when she said it, and I said, "Holy shit!" to
Holy
myself.
shit! Yeah. Wow, that was a truth bomb.
Yeah, well, she's 45 years old now, so that was probably 38 years ago.
Wow. Wow, that's beautiful, Maurice. This has been a really powerful day. We covered a lot of, I think, such important things. That's what we always do. At least they're important to me. I do this selfishly with my higher self. It has
Yep.
great enjoyment of our Thursdays. And I say it every time. People may listen, they may not, and it's just that's okay because I enjoy our time and I always feel like I am getting so much out of it. That's the thing. And even doing like my other videos is I'm kind of doing them for me. I'm learning things. I'm hearing myself talk. I'm learning things. I'm on the journey with everybody. I just chose to be doing it in this way. Other people do it in that way. We all do it in like different ways. And
You're sharing yourself. That's a higher level of expression, if you will. A lot of people do videos to get clicks, which means money to them. Behind the scenes, it means money, and it's just another way of earning a living that they figured out how to make a life out of it. But that's at a different level than what you're doing. You're yes, you would like a lot of people to watch it, but not because you're in it, to see what money I can get from YouTube off of it. That's not your game at all. You're sharing yourself for a higher purpose. And that's
for a higher purpose. And if at some point I make a good living from it, good for me.
but that's why you're doing it.
I look at the role. I look at Jason from our cakes as a role model for this because I knew him way back when. Start following him when he just had a little shed that he was sitting in and he was saying his truth. You know, he
Mhm.
did not have like he was working hard. He was doing landscaping and he was started doing videos and he was sharing it and he was so generous in sharing things. In fact, I sent him a picture the other day that early on, this is probably like 5 years ago, he sent me this big note or a envelope that had, he went and had copies made of his charts and stuff on this thick, glossy, beautiful paper and sent this packet of things and some of his artwork and stuff to me. And it was, and I paid him. You know, I was donating early on, but he always was so generous in sharing things without monetizing it, you know, and now he's monetizing the heck out of it, but it's always about giving back and he's super, super generous with it, you know, and it's all about what the money can do to keep furthering his mission and spreading it. But he never set out to like monetize things. And being the little good Capricorn I am and the little entrepreneur and all this that I kind of grew myself up in a way of buying into like, and I want to succeed, but I do want to succeed at life. And I succeeded at businesses and now I'm doing it in a different way.
Yep.
And it's about not doing the whole, you know, business plan of how to monetize things. It's, you know, I keep in mind stuff. And I mean, I know I've got to pay bills. I've got to do things. I'm like everybody else that's not, you know, independently wealthy is that you know, we need an income source, but it's value. Like if you put value out of something that's helping people, it'll all come back. And he's a beautiful example about it, of how he just put it out there, you know, donation basis, put it out there. And now he's, you know, charging for different things because he's got costs and stuff. And then he's got membership sites and all of that. And he's doing really well, but it was just not based on the spirit of I'm going to capitalize on what I'm doing.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, events happen around you that you don't that just happen around you that allow income to flow in your direction. You don't,
You,
it's not your prime focus, but you still get to eat.
you will be taken care of when you're in that slot, when you're in that slot of clarity, that slot of, you know, of the, you know, being in the center point of the cross of who you are, you be in that point and then these things are all taken care of. You
They
don't
are.
have to worry about it. It will come. You just got to keep moving with that impulse, you know, keeping clear with it the best you can in every moment, right? It's just about doing the best you can every moment because
Yep.
my best I can do today, I can do a lot better than what I could do yesterday or a couple of days ago.
And then tomorrow you might fall back 2 steps, and then but then the next day you're a day and you're higher.
I'm higher. I'm way ahead of the ball game, you know. But it's
You put
yeah,
another 30 pounds on the weight thing. Judy
yeah.
used to say something to me. That's my wife. She passed in 2010. But she always said it to me, and it made sense. Be the best you can be, and be aware of that. You know, I got all these choices. I can say something mean that would hurt somebody, but it would make them feel bad, and I could do that. Or I could say something neutral, or I could say something uplifting, which is the best, as I determine best. And you just do that, and that's part of what it means to take control of your own life.
One of our early videos, remember we talked about right action for right action's sake,
Yes.
and that comes back to that. You know, all these things. That's all of that weaves back around. You know,
Yeah.
and you do the right thing because you do the right thing. It's just the right thing to do, and
Yeah.
you feel good about it. You know, maybe challenging moment. You may not feel real great about doing it because you're really a part of you really wants to, but you don't. You do the right thing, and then your feelings all come around, and you feel great in the end because you did it.
All
You
right.
know,
There's another point too. What I described, where you have choices, and that's beginning of taking what it means to take control of your own life. There comes a point where that becomes spontaneous. You don't even think about it. You just do it. It's not a I can do it this way, that way, or the other way. You just do the right action. It
yeah,
becomes you.
yeah. Yeah, like I don't question the things like what challenged me years ago, and I'd have to, oh, this would be the right thing to do, Lisa, do it. Now I just do it. Now it's just me because I broke through that.
You're
I
in the
set,
flow.
I established a new pattern for myself, and I just nope, 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 nope. And those things. So there's some, like I was saying before with you, and there's things we've mastered. We don't even know we mastered them because it's just part of who we are.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's just like part of who we are. And then we're seeing the new things we have to master. We have the new things that we challenges.
There's another point to that I'd like to make. When you do that, there's no duality either because there's no right. There's not a choice. There's only right action. So you're living in a non-dual world, in a world that is basically a world of duality, isn't it? On the
Yeah.
surface, it is for sure. It's pure duality. As you progress through the levels, if you will, like we talked earlier, you learn the more you become clear, the more you become graceful, the more you become doing right action is for the sake of doing right action, that duality disappears
Yeah.
and you become you become something other than just
Well,
another.
it's the single, it's just like the masters talk about being of single eye. Being of, it's just a single eye. There it is. You're not in that duality, but the duality is a great learning zone, isn't it?
It's a hell of a journey, I can tell you that.
Oh, geez, criminy. Whether that duality lives outside of the master controllers right now, it probably did, but it looked very different. It maybe was not the prey, it was like natural because there's complementary dualities, right?
Mhm.
And then there's also dualities that are antagonistic, but there's ones that go with each other. They're
Well, there's
natural, like
diversity.
masculine and feminine. It's a
Yeah,
duality, but it's a beautiful duality.
exactly. Well, it's diversity. Actually, it's not just a single, oneness. It's manifest in a million different ways, or however many 9 billion different ways. Just in human consciousness, we got the whole animal world. We hear tell that the trees have a consciousness. We hear tell that plants have a consciousness. I'm not a tree or a plant, so I don't experience it, but I don't deny the possibility of it.
But some people do experience it. Some people can hear. They know tree language, tree talk.
I've
They
heard
know
people
plant
say that.
speak. They know that, and they tune into it. I mean, I've heard trees talk before to me and plants talk. I'm not one that does it like that's thing, but I have intuited and with animals in different ways, but it's all consciousness. So it all has a level of consciousness different, than ours, but it's there and there's communication. It just doesn't happen like blah, 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 blah.
I'll tell
The
you something.
Yeah.
True story too. Back in 2004, Judy and I had moved into this place that I'm in right now, like 8 months before, because we moved in December of 2003. We had a hell of a hurricane here in Florida, in Pensacola. It was Ivan, the year before Katrina. Ivan, by the way, was a stronger hurricane than Katrina was, uh,
Mm.
intensity wise. Um, and it messed up this trailer park big time. We lost over 400 trees in the park. It's a big park,
Wow.
and we had two big, I mean, really tall pine trees right next to the house, and they were tilted, but they hadn't fallen, but they were tilted. And Judy walked around outside, and she told me that night. She said the trees told me. This is what my wife told me. She said the trees told me that they have to be taken down because they're going to fall tomorrow. Now, I didn't experience that, but my wife did. You said the tree people. I have somebody that I was freaking married to that I loved that told me that. She wouldn't tell that to the grocery store clerk, but she told it
Yeah.
to me, and so I know that there's people that
Yeah.
can do that because those trees. Oh, we took them down the next day, and but then she told me that. Holy mackerel!
That's interesting. I had one time I was living in Oklahoma and I was in my house somewhere and I all of a sudden I heard like a scream and it was like a scream in my head, but there was a scream and I ran outside and the neighbors were cutting down a big tree. I swear to God, I heard that tree screaming.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of interesting,
Yeah.
but yeah. Anywho, Lou. All
Yeah.
right, Maurice, are we ready to wrap it up for the day? Did
Yeah,
we
we've been
cover
going.
enough territory?
Yeah, we've touched a bunch of things, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to sign out. I'm going to stop the recording, but then we'll chat a little bit, just you and I, when we're done. But
Uh,
everybody,
Let
I
me say
hope.
one more
Oh
thing
yeah.
before you close. I got to say, you brought up some really good points that I really enjoyed listening to. I have to say, I'd say something and then you'd build on it, and I said, "Damn, that's really good."
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way too. It's like, oh yeah, but that's like the fun thing of collaboration.
Mhm.
Bring it's like they call the masterminding. Masterminds when you bring two minds, two hearts and minds together, and that it creates like this bigger field. And in that field, new things can come in. I mean, I had some downloads when we were talking. I'm going to do a whole video on NPCs.
Oh
Oh,
boy,
everybody
yeah,
looking at it. I'm doing that. Man,
that
I
was one of them too, by the way. That,
what's that?
that opened up my eyes to a new way of looking at it. I have to
I
say,
know.
and I recognize it right away. I said, "Wow, that's a clearer view of things as they are. It's not just soulless beings and the 144,000 or the 10 million or the 10% or the 5% or whatever, and the rest of them are just non-player characters. That's a imprecise view. What you brought up is a really, really good way of expressing that, and I really it opened up my eyes somewhat for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Maurice. I like doing that. I feel like one of my superpowers is seeing things from a different way and seeing things, from a different perspective and hopefully make it simpler and easier and
Yes,
more
there you
gracious
go.
to
There you
others.
go.
That's the bottom line is let's just make this easy. Let's be gracious about it and let's lift ourselves up and bring the whole ball game up with us and so we can step into a different ball game because I know you too.
Exactly.
We're tired
And
of this one.
and that's a selfish thing too, isn't it? But
Yeah,
it is, but it's in a divine selfishness, if you will, whatever.
yeah,
That is. But that's a good way to look at it too. That's what the divine can do.
yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. All right, my dear. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is the Rebel Crone, Elisa and Maurice signing out for Thursday. And peace from within always. We love you and wish you the best always. Till next time. Bye bye.